Very good morning. We will be starting the day in just a couple of minutes. Today is a very special day for all of us. Two big things. One is today is International Yoga Day, where the entire world is celebrating India's prominence. And in the next level is we are celebrating the Saur Urja Day, where we are getting the most sunlight in the earth today. And I think both, even in the yoga or even in the solar sector, India is taking a big lead. So it is a day of celebration for all of us here. And it is a very privileged and proud moment for all of us here, because the people who are leading the solar movement is all here. Thank you very much for being part of it, and just allow us 1 minute to start the event. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Harishankar. I am the managing editor of Machine Maker, and it is my honor to be your master of ceremony for today's event. Saur Urja Diwas 2024, organized by the Solar Energy Society of India in collaboration with the Solar Alliance, ISA, International Society of Solar Energy, ISES, National Solar Federation Energy of India, and Shakti Sustainable Energy Foundation. Today we gather on this significant day, June 21st, the summer solstice, when Earth receives maximum sunlight of the year. This day symbolizes the transformative potential of solar energy as a sustainable power source. Let's give a warm round of applause for this incredible occasion. SESI, along with its partners, is pioneering the path to renewable brilliance in India and across the globe. For 46 years, SESI has been at the forefront of promoting solar energy adoption and technological advancements, driving India's transition to a sustainable energy future. To commence our celebration, we will light the ceremonial lamp. May I request our special guest, Dr. Ajay Mathur, Director General of the International Solar Alliance, Shri B.S. Verma, Life Member of Solar Energy Society of India, Shri Ajay Srivastava, Past President of Solar Energy Society of India, Shri Prafulla Pathak, President of Solar Energy Society of India, and Dr. Ashvini Kumar, SESI Life Member as well as the Global Director of International Solar Energy Society, to please come on the dais to join us for the lamp lighting ceremony. Can you join now? Dr. Renne, can you join now? Thank you, all our distinguished and special guests, for being part of the opening ceremony. We have an exciting agenda today, starting with the inauguration of Saur Urja Diwas 2024 celebrations, and also this launch of the Solar World Congress 2024. And this will be followed by a panel discussion, challenges and opportunities in accelerating financing in the solar sector to meet our national targets. To start the proceedings for the first session, may I now request Dr. Ajay Mathur, Director General of the ISI, to please join the dais, along with Prafulla Pathak, the President of Solar Energy Society of India, Dr. Ashvini Kumar, Director of Global Director of International Solar Energy Society, and also we are having Dr. Renne. Thank you, Dr. Renne, for joining with us. May I now request Prafulla Pathak, our President of the Solar Energy Society of India, who for the last couple of years is taking a lot of initiatives to promote the renewable energy, the solar energy in India. Not only, along with, we have seen the World Solar Congress was organized in India last year. We have taken a lot of steps in supporting that initiative globally, and we are very happy that he is having with us, taking the lead to also organize this event today. Last year, Solar Energy Society have done, this is the second time we are able to organize this Saur Urja Diwas. But what makes this year special is that, along with this event, 7 more such events are getting organized on Saur Urja Diwas in different parts of the country. And let's give a big applause for our President for taking this step and making solar more reachable to the masses. To officially open our event, I would like to invite Prafulla Pathak, President of the Solar Energy Society of India, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Harishankar. Good morning to you all, and I am very much happy to be here, and I have a special thanks to Dr. Ajay Mathur, Director General, International Solar Alliance, when we approached to him from 1 month before, and we have proposed that the Solar Energy Society of India wish to have a Saur Urja Diwas, that is on 21st of June. The why 21st of June you will get to know in the next couple of minutes. But thanks to him, then I am also thankful to International Solar Energy Society for joining with us in this event, as well as NSFEI and Shakti Foundation in this. Last 1 year, when I look back, I found some major things that are happening in case of Solar Energy Society of India. The first thing is, I think somewhere in March 2023, we got a communication from International Solar Energy Society that they are planning to have a Solar World Congress in India at New Delhi after 45 years. And Solar Energy Society of India being the partner there. So that was the first proposal which came to us, and during that, Dr. Ashvini Kumar, special thanks to him, he and Dr. Ajay Mathur stand by us, and ISES, ISA, we are planning to have a Solar World Congress, so Solar Energy Society of India joined there, and it was a wonderful experience for all of us. Before that, in last 21st June, we have started, that thought came to my mind that you all are aware, in Delhi, we are facing the hot summer nowadays. And I belong to Nagpur, Maharashtra, where we also have a similar situation. The only difference is we are facing it in June and July, and we face there in April and May. And since my childhood, we used to hear that if these type of hot sunny days are there, we don't want to come in your area. So from that point, this thing was in my mind that why not to turn, or why not to put solar to sun to work, so that whatever the problem or whatever the difficult things or difficult days we have, so can we do that? And in that thought, this Saur Urja Diwas, why not to celebrate a Saur Urja Diwas on 21st of June, which is the hottest day in the northern hemisphere. So on that background, we had a thought, we started it in last year. We had a program with Terry last year, and as it was mentioned earlier, we thought why not to make it more. So when we appealed to our fellow colleagues all over India, so 7 to 8 places we have celebration of Saur Urja Diwas today. And the thing is simple, that we have to communicate to the general masses that on this day, when you are facing the hottest day, so we need to think whether it is at your home or in your residential societies, or at your school, colleges, or at any institution or organization or industry you are working. So we need to tell everyone there that instead of thinking that we are having a difficulty because of sun, why not to put it into the work? And there are many things that has happened in last decade in solar sector, and a lot more things are happening. So we need to understand that what are the things that are available in today's world in solar sector, and how we can put it to our use. The another thing is, we always are hearing about the climate change and all these things. So when we have to achieve a net zero, or when we have to reduce the carbon percentage in the environment, so the solar is the one solution. And in that case, we have to, the SESI's objective or mandate is to make people aware that what are the things that are available, and how we can put those applications into our day-to-day life. And that is why we started with this Saur Urja Diwas, and we would like to take it many-fold in years to come. And I request everyone around us that this message, that we have to understand, we have to know what is happening in solar world, how we can put the solar energy applications in our around, and we have to act. So to remember that, and to start functioning, or to start taking steps, we decided to have this Saur Urja Diwas function, and we appeal everyone that this is the beginning. So we want more and more people, or more and more industry and institutions to join us and start celebrating it at their premises. The celebration is to understand, to know, to act on how we can use more and more solar energy. Thank you.
बूंद बूंद से ही सागर बनता है, and I can see that, you know, this small initiative what you took.
We would like to welcome Mr. Sudeep Jain, here, Additional Secretary MNR. Yes, maybe we'll start session a little bit. Yeah. आप बैठिए सर, अभी आपको उसकी पानी दीजिए। अच्छा, आइए सर।
आइए।
How is it to see?
Thank you, sir. So as I told, I can see that, you know, that the small drops what he was able to put last year, now it is taking a you know, steps ahead, and we feel that Saur Urja Diwas may be, we will be celebrating as like Yoga Day in the coming days. Thank you very much, Pathak sir. Now, we are having with us Dr. Ashvini Kumar. First of all, let's congratulate him. He is recently elected as the Global Director of International Solar Energy Society. May I now request Dr. Ashvini Kumar, who is having more than 3 decades of experience in the field of renewable energy, to share the concept of Saur Urja Diwas and the World Solar Congress with us.
Thanks and good morning, Dr. Mathur, thanks for Pathak sir and all the dignitaries who are present. And it's my privilege to be amongst the solar professionals. And there are 2 things today. One, that as explained by Mr. Pathak, we were having a meeting with Dr. Mathur, and he said we want to celebrate this 21st June as the Solar Day. I told him, no, International Sun Day is celebrated on 3rd May. Then what is the rationale? Why do we want to do it? He said, no, this is the longest day. Then certainly I added that, okay, this is the longest day in Northern Hemisphere. So that's the qualification. But certainly it's the longest day, about 14 hours in Delhi. Of course, it depends on latitude. So that's one point. And in fact, I started thinking a bit that in Indian culture, sun has always been worshipped. And in fact, we always considered sun as the god of universe, creator of life on the earth. And I think life is bestowed on us by sun. Its rays have been doing all the wonders. But in between, the mankind started using fossil fuels a lot. And then soon we realized the dangers of that. And I think in today's world, again, back to square one, again we are back to sun, that's the maybe solution for our problems. And I would say, then I realized that there is no harm. There can be as many functions, as many days to remember sun god as possible. It's always good to be sensitized and to keep people sensitized, to carry out, to utilize it the way we want to do it. So that's one day. I think it's a great day, and I would like to congratulate SESI to continue doing it. Other event, I would say Dr. Dave is also there virtually with us. Last year, Solar World Congress, which is a flagship event of International Solar Energy Society, was held in New Delhi, and that happened, before this, the ISES event, Solar World Congress, was happened in 1978, and after that, only last year it was celebrated, it was organized in Delhi, and it's a conglomerate of technical people, knowledgeable people, academic people. They present their research, formative, they come and they present their research, what is going on, and people can ask them questions. Then there are, of course, some plenary sessions where we bring the best people, best minds to tell that what is being done in various parts of the globe. And traditionally, the International Solar Energy Society publishes the accepted research papers, peer-reviewed research papers, and that proceedings is ready. And I think today that occasion is here, and that will be formally launched by ISES. So with that, I won't take more time, and Hari, do I invite or do I invite Dr. Dev? Dr. Dev, good morning, and he is the chair of the Solar World Congress 2023, and I'll request you to say a few words about the Congress and proceedings so that it's formally launched, the proceedings is formally launched. Over to Dr. Dev.
Sir, we are not able to listen to you, hear you. Just 1 second. So give a second. Can you just speak?
Yes, hello everybody, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, and thank you so much, Dr. Ashvini, for your kind introduction. Thank you everybody for having me here this morning. I'm very excited to use this opportunity to introduce the proceedings which are being released, or have just been released. As Dr. Ashvini has already mentioned, the ISIS Solar World Conferences are held every 2 years, different places around the world, and we chose to return to India in 2023, where we had a congress, had our first conference there back in 1978, when the ISIS Congresses were just a few years old in time. But the main thing I wanted to highlight here is that the congresses are designed to bring together stakeholders from all segments of the renewable energy landscape, and this especially includes researchers, practitioners, government decision makers, and civil society that is interested in learning more about the latest breakthroughs and trends in solar energy and the related technologies. And the Congress is structured in such a way that it offers researchers in all aspects of renewable energy to present their results in technical sessions, while also offering participants the opportunity to learn about the latest trends in renewable energy development from esteemed plenary and keynote speakers. And for this particular Congress, we're particularly excited to have a joint day of activities with the International Solar Alliance, which is in conjunction with their annual General Assembly. Dr. Ajay Mathur, who Director General of the ISA, served on our organizing committee, and he worked with ISIS to put together a joint day of panel discussions related to identifying technologies, policies, and financial tools to accelerate the deployment of renewables in the region and around the world. And this conference also occurred just a few weeks before the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change held its 28th annual conference of the parties, which was in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. And for about 30 years now, the UNFCCC has convened these conferences from around the world to find solutions for the growing climate crisis caused by human activity. And this past year at that conference, the nearly 200 countries participating in the climate negotiations agreed to specific language calling out renewable energy as a key in limiting global warming to no more than 1.5 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial levels. And this agreement proclaimed a goal of tripling of renewable energy capacity and doubling energy efficiency improvements by 2030. And this came on the heels of a year of record warm temperatures, the highest temperatures on average that the globe has ever observed since measurements began. But it's important to highlight here that this conference and these proceedings highlight how the community is responding to the global challenge with the technologies that we've been discussing here at these conferences. Renewable energy technology costs, especially wind and solar, continue to decrease and are now often the most cost competitive source of new power generation throughout much of the world. Technological advances leading to these reductions continue to be a major focus of renewable energy researchers within the academia, research institutes, and even in private enterprises. So these proceedings should provide good examples of the results of research and development in these efforts around the world that will not only help address the challenges put forth in the COP28 agreement, but also create healthier environments, economic growth, and energy security in communities that fully adopt these technologies over the long term. So with that, again, I hope the proceedings, you'll find value in these proceedings and in your own research and development activities. And look forward to seeing many of you at future IASIS Solar World Congress. Our next one is going to be in Fortaleza, Brazil, in November of 2025. You can go to our website to learn more about that. So with that, I can provide some more specific information about these proceedings if time permits. Otherwise, I'll turn it back to the conference organizer and say once again how much I appreciate the opportunity to speak with all of you today. And I know our partner in this, Dr. Ajay Mathur, also is prepared and standing by to give his remarks as well. So I'll turn it back to the conference organizers. If there's time for more specific information, I can offer that. Otherwise, I'll stop for now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dave. This was Dr. Dave, the past president, also the chair for the World Solar Congress 2024, and this is what we witnessed the release of Solar World Congress proceedings for 2024. A big applause for ISES. Thank you very much, Dr. Dave.
Dr. Mathur.
Yes. So now we are having our chief guests, Dr. Ajay Mathur. He is the Director General of the International Solar Alliance, which is one of its kind multilateral organization established to catalyze the global solar growth. Prior to joining ISA, Dr. Mathur was Director General of the Energy and Resources Institute, Delhi, and a member of the Prime Ministers of India's Council on Climate Change. He was the co-chair of the Global Energy Transition Commission and the Clean Cooling Initiatives of the One Planet Summit. He earlier headed the Indian Bureau of Energy Efficiency and was responsible for its foundational programs, which mainstreamed energy efficiency through initiatives such as the Star Labeling Program for appliances, the Energy Conservation Building Code, and the Platform Achieve and Trade Program for energy-intensive industries. He served as the interim director of the Green Climate Fund during its foundational period. Dr. Mathur did BTech in Chemical Engineering from the University of Roorkee and a Master's and PhD degree from the University of Illinois. Friends, Dr. Mathur.
In fact, Dr. Mathur has multiple roles. Right now, I think you have to, because ISES wanted ISA also together in releasing the proceedings. So I think this is the occasion that we have to speak about that. Panel discussion will start a little later. So that's.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Ashvini, Prafulla, my dear friends, and the very many friends in this room. It's a great pleasure that we are releasing the proceedings of the Solar World Conference, which we had the pleasure of organizing. Well, ISIS organized it. There was a day that we did in common with the Solar World Conference. We enjoyed the partnership. It was through the partnership we were able to bring the world technologies, the world understanding on the research that was ongoing and on the kinds of achievements that have been done, and that fed very well into the assembly of the International Solar Alliance, where we had various ministers who from our member countries at the meeting itself. So this was organized a day after our assembly. And the meeting of the policymakers on the one side and the experts on the other side was able to create an occasion in which the ministers were able to understand where the limits are, and the experts were able to understand the limits of the public policy making process. We hope that this was successful. In fact, building on its success, we plan to do this again this year, and we have requested ISES to partner again with us to organize the meeting on the day after the assembly. Again, on the issue this year of the energy transition. And therefore, what we are looking at is seeing what are the basic challenges to the energy transition, within that, what are the manufacturing and technological challenges, what are the financial challenges, what are the policy and regulatory challenges. And I'm hoping that this year we have as exciting a partnership with ISES as we had last year. Ashwini, I want to thank through you ISES for this partnership, and I'm delighted that we are bringing out the proceedings now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mathur. Now we are going to our next session, and we already have our two panelists here, Dr. Mathur as well as Shri Jain IS, Shri Sudeep Jain, Additional Secretary of Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Now may I request Shri Koyal Mandal, our moderator for the panel discussion, to please come on the stage. He's the Director of Climate India's AFF. Along with our other co-panelists, I would like to call Dr. Amit Jain, the Senior Energy Specialist, World Bank. He's not yet here. Okay, Sri K. Mugundan, Strategic Initiatives and Policy Advisory of NIIF. Sri Chindan Shah, Group CEO at Renew. Over to you. Mr. T.S.C. Ghosh, sorry, the Executive Director of REC Limited.
Yeah,
Please.
Jan is also there. Yeah, please. Direct, direct from the direct.
Yeah.
Going before you.
Thank you, and welcome everyone once again to this panel discussion on financing challenges and opportunities for solar energy in India. So first of all, I'll set the context, do a bit of framing for 5 minutes or so. Then I'll introduce my panelists on the dais, and then we'll have a round of conversation. At some point, we'll also open up to the audience for some questions, so please keep your questions ready. As mentioned earlier, this is of course a day of celebration, and we will hold the panel discussion in that spirit. We have come a long way in our journey on solar. It is a moment to celebrate. It is also a moment to pause and reflect on the future direction of solar in India, given the ambitious goals we have set for ourselves. So in that light, let me start by framing a little bit how we will lead the discussion here. India, as we all know, has set a very ambitious target of installing 500 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2030. And that's just 6 years from now. It's a very massive target. Where we stand today, we have close to 200 gigawatts of renewable energy, which includes large hydro as well. And 85 gigawatts close to that, out of that 200, comes from solar energy. Last fiscal year, we installed around 20 gigawatts of renewable energy. Out of that, 15 was from solar. And all of this achievement has been possible because of enabling policies by the government, the tremendous amount of financing that's been coming into the sector and the role of the private sector plays therefore. And finally, also the declining cost of technology. And all of this makes it quite clear that solar will play a dominant role in achieving India's renewable energy targets going ahead. We are also now in a position, given our massive targets, where each year we have to install almost 50 gigawatts of renewable energy. And that's a very steep ask. And when we talk to stakeholders around in the country, one thing that we keep on hearing as something that might become a challenge for India to achieve that is financing. This comes up repeatedly as a challenge. And that is precisely the point of the discussion, the panel discussion today. But of course, we want to delve a little bit deeper into this financing issue. What do we really mean by financing as a challenge? And here I want to just lay out a few questions before I open up and hear from the panelists. First is the quantum of the finance. If you look at the investments coming into renewable energy overall in the country, it's remained more or less constant over the last 2-3 years, around $12–13 billion per year. Now, the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Energy, in their report in 2022, they mentioned that the requirement for investments, given the targets we have, is close to $30 billion per year. And that's probably a conservative estimate, and that's just for production. This does not include grid infrastructure, it does not include storage, and it does not include the nature of the procurement contracts we are seeing. We are moving away from plain vanilla solar contracts to solar plus wind, solar plus storage, firm dispatchable renewable energy. So all of these forms of procurement have higher capex cost. Therefore, the requirement will be quite high. And how do we meet that financing gap? So quantum of finance and the cost of capital is clearly one issue. Second is the source of financing. There's clearly a segregation between equity and debt. And from what we hear, we have been getting required amount of equity, but debt might be a challenge. And most of the debt capital has been coming from domestic financial institutions. How do we tap into other sources of debt to meet the requirements that we have? Thirdly, there are a whole host of other challenges as well, some of which Dr. Mathur also alluded to. Enabling policies, technology, land. Land is something that we keep on hearing might become an issue as we increase our capacities. So how do we address some of those challenges? And finally, the last point, this is all about utility scale solar, right? The last point is about decentralized renewable energy. That's a major challenge for us, even bigger than utility scale solar. How do we finance the small solar units that are used for cold storages in agriculture, rooftop solar both for residential and commercial, industrial and government buildings as well? The nature of financing challenge there is quite different. So to discuss all of these issues, we have a brilliant panel today, and I'll briefly introduce them. You all know them quite well, therefore I'm not going to read out their entire bios. I'll just, in the interest of time, talk about their current affiliation. Let me first welcome Dr. Ajay Mathur. He's already been introduced. He's the Director General of the International Solar Alliance. Welcome, Dr. Mathur, once again. Second, let me introduce Shri Sudeep Jain, who currently serves as the Additional Secretary of the Ministry of Clean and Renewable Energy. I also had the privilege of working very briefly with Sir during his Tamil Nadu Energy Development Agency TEDA days. I was with IFMR Chennai, so welcome, sir. We have Mr. TSC Bosch, ED of REC Limited. Welcome. Next, we have Shri Chintan Shah, who is the Group President of Renew Power. Welcome, Mr. Shah. We have Dr. Amit Jain, who is Senior Energy Specialist, World Bank. Welcome, Dr. Jain. And finally, we have Shri K. Mukundan, who is the Strategic Initiatives and Policy Advisor, National Investment and Infrastructure Fund. Welcome. So I welcome all of you once again to the panel and look forward to the discussion. Let me start by asking all of you to share a little bit about how your respective organizations and you personally, professionally have contributed to this solar journey in the spirit of celebrating today. But also if you can highlight during that one or two specific financing challenges that you see going ahead given the steep target that we have. maybe around 5 minutes for each of you. And let me start with Dr. Mathur.
Thank you, Kuer. The financing challenge is, it has changed over time. Now we have come to the point where round the clock renewable energy is available at competitive prices. Last year and early this year, the Railway Energy Management Company had carried out tenders, and they found that at 85% availability, we were able to get solar plus wind plus batteries providing round-the-clock power at between 4 and 4.4 rupees per kilowatt hour. The vast amount of it was at 4.37 rupees per kilowatt hour. Now, remember, this is solar plus wind plus batteries plus storage. So now the challenge becomes, so very clearly, if I was a banking institution, I will say if I can make electricity at say 4.47 or 4.4 rupees per kilowatt, why should I pay 5 rupees? Why should I invest in something which gives electricity at 5 rupees per kilowatt hour, as happening with the new coal plants which are being commissioned? There can be two answers. One is, remember, this is at 85% availability. So what happens to the other 15%? It could be met by hydro. It could be made by nuclear. Those are both carbon neutral sources, but have costs that are higher than that of the solar, wind, storage, hydro. The second problem is the availability of land that Koel spoke about. I think in Gujarat there has been a large piece of land that has been made available for 30 gigawatts of capacity that they can do, but we need to see more of this coming up in more states. Having a piece of land is useful because one, if I win a tender anywhere, I can come and establish a plant there, solar plus wind plus storage. And the second issue is that the transmission line. So land is one, transmission line is the second. So if I have a transmission line coming from that pocket to the load center or to the grid nearby, then I can work at 90% availability instead of 30% for solar, 30% for wind, and 30% for storage. This provides a huge benefit for the country in the years to come. But the third goal, and now coming back to the central point, the third is investment money. Solar plus wind plus the storage, even though the cost of electricity is less, the capital cost is much higher. So a 100 megawatt coal power station costs what, about 900 crore rupees, something like that sort. But solar plus wind plus storage will cost 1920 crores to provide the same amount of electricity. This is double, more than double of the amount that you use for fossil fuels. Double is not all that great. As a country we can meet it, but the point is there will be other sectors which will be affected because they will not be, if money comes here, money will not go somewhere else. So what is the answer? And the answer which I am proposing, and please understand this is only a proposal. The answer that I am proposing is that the loan is provided for 2 or 3 years till the plant becomes operational. It's not provided for 7 years, and therefore the same money can be used twice, which is what we want. Right? But the project needs money upfront. How do we do it? That could be done by enabling the project to get money through green bonds. So if we enable green bonds, and there the issue is that anybody who invests in green bond invests this much. But these projects will be much smaller. So you need an electronic platform where you can choose, you can get the money and then retail it. It's not all that difficult. There are many agencies which do this. All our banks receive a lot of money and then retail much more. We need to lower the cost of doing business. The short point is, yes, there will be a financing issue, but there are solutions that are possible to move ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mathur, and thanks also for alluding to the idea on green bonds toward the end, because that's one area source, particularly the domestic capital market, we haven't tapped so far in our renewable energy journey. Let me move to Mr. Sudeep Jain now for his opening remarks.
Good morning. I think Dr. Mathur has already said the term. He has clearly explained the projects per se. CapEx required is definitely high. There is no doubt about it. However, let's say 10 years ago, financing was a serious concern for the growth of renewable energy per se, growth of solar. Today, very frankly, we don't hear from any of the developers that financing is a concern if all other factors are in place. If the land is there, if the transmission is guaranteed, if the connectivity is as per the timelines, enough international funding is available in terms of green funds or whichever other modes of funding is a general feeling that we have. I'm sure we have other experts who will be able to throw more light on it. From industry side also, we would like to hear if that is really a major constraint. However, it's a fact that the exponential growth that we are going to see or we require in next 5 to 10 years, it will obviously require that much more funding. We clearly have a trajectory of 50 gigawatt of renewable energy every year over next 6 years. Up to 2030 itself, we have a very clear trajectory in place, and we are going to definitely achieve it. So that much of funding will have to come. We'll have to sit together, we'll have to put our brains together to find how we tap into these funds, how do we make it, what innovative solutions we bring, how do we provide a certainty that a banker needs or any funder needs, that yes, the project is viable and there is a certainty on the repayment that is going to come. So those are the payment security aspects which, if they are built in, then we don't think that we will have a difficulty. We will be able to attract both domestic funds as well as international funds. So that's my thought on the distributed RE side. Yes, there are multiple challenges, multiple issues. We should definitely brainstorm. We'll find and there are solutions which are in the pipeline, which are working out. We can discuss those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. Thank you for highlighting the payment security mechanism. And there are other kinds of guarantee instruments as well. We'll also hear from Dr. Amit Jain in a bit on the kind of things they have done, World Bank has done with guarantee instruments. But let me now invite Mr. Bosch for his opening remarks.
Respected panelists, Dr. Vivek Kumar Devanga, CMD of EC, is supposed to come today, but he is out of country. I would like to share about our EC, how it is positioned. And since inception, our EC has been in the forefront of funding power sector plus the renewable energy sector. And it has aligned its operations in accordance with the nationally determined contributions on the 20 years objective of energy transition, the target of 500 gigawatts by 2030. Among the NBFCs, being a premier Bharatna company with largest asset base, that is 5,09,000 crores, and with the lowest borrowing cost among the NBFCs, REC is very well positioned to accommodate the terms and conditions of the requirement of the energy sector. Last financial year ending, that is FY24, REC has sanctioned around 1,36,000 crores under RE, in which solar alone is more than 40,000 crores. And in its kitty, 35,000 megawatt has been sanctioned as of now. The loan assets of RE is as of now 38,971 crores. We have plans to build the loan assets by 2030 to 3 lakh crore, in which the solar, I think overall requirement of solar is somewhere around 5.8 with the DTU of 75-25, 5.83 lakh crore, in which REC would be occupying at least 20%. So on a year-on-year basis, for 50,000 megawatts, 45,000 megawatts addition under solar, we would be in a position, better place to supplement the efforts of the government. Having said that, the challenging aspect is the equity and the source of equity, the well-planned the project implementation, and the cost of funds when it comes to debt. RE is very well positioned to accommodate, keep its terms very flexible, to make, if any other financial institution is offering at certain terms, we are in a position to match up our terms with the terms of the lead lender or any consortial lender, and our cost of funds is much cheaper. That's one aspect. Number two, given the fluctuating cash flows, so that instead of equated repayments, we go for structured payments. And the repayments now, instead of a medium term, short term, it goes to long term also, 10 years, even 15 years. Isolated cases, 20 years repayment, on monthly basis or quarterly basis or annual basis, that we look at. The gestation period, in fact, is what we solar projects we look at, should be around 18 months. It goes to 3 years also. And the repayments is capped at least up to 85% of the economic life of the project. And the other aspect is the land. Bringing the land is very tough. Land acquisition is a very lengthy, cumbersome process. We recognize that. So, matching with the acquisition of the land, proportionately we tailor our fund releases to match with up to the construction period. Post construction, up to the construction, it's the whole lot of risk is taken care of. Once the construction is done, once CVD is in place and it's stable, we offer 25 basis points reduction also. We are contemplating also aggregate. Suppose if a promoter comes with a number of projects, suppose if that is aggregating to some 5,000 crores, then also we are thinking to go for offering some discounts. There are other aspects in place. We are very confident to scale up our loan assessment.
Thank you, Mr. Bosch. There are already some common themes emerging. Land is coming up in all the introductory remarks, but I also heard you say equity, a point I'll come back to later. But let me now turn to Dr. Amit Jain from World Bank for your opening remarks.
Thank you very much. So 3 quick points which you mentioned and carried forward in the panel discussion. One is the parliamentary committee said 10 to 12 billion dollars are coming and required is $30 billion. So there is a shortfall. Second, you mentioned yes, the domestic debt is coming. International debt is still not coming in a big way. Third point, land I will not cover, but the fourth point you mentioned about decentralized energy. So these 3 points I will exactly cover in a brief presentation if it comes online, but I will in the interest of time, I will go And I'm going to talk about only in numbers, so that we put. So we will talk only in numbers so that we can do some cross check. What are we talking about here? Because as a financier, as a banker, it's important to put numbers in front of us and see if they are right or not. So complex slide, just stay with me. On the right hand side, this is the India's energy landscape in a single slide in terms of financing. As you mentioned, $30 billion required and $12 billion coming. This is only for renewable energy you mentioned. I am enlarging it for the whole green finance in India. India as a country needs about $150 billion in green finance, and currently we are getting about $50 billion. So yes, we are doing very well, but still there is a shortfall of $100 billion if we have to achieve our net zero goals and the 500 gigawatt commitment. Three pillars of financing. On the right hand side you see clean energy, transportation, energy efficiency. Almost all three pillars are getting equally divided. What is important is on the left hand side. Please pay attention to the left hand side. Two colors, blue and orange. Blue is the public sector investment. Government of India, multilaterals like World Bank and other SOEs, REC and so on, is the blue color, contributing almost $22 billion in terms of financing. Orange is the private sector. My friend Chintan from Renne comes in the orange, contributing almost $22 billion, not only Renne, but combined total. What is important over here, $22 billion from public sector is leveraging $22 billion in private sector. This is a very poor number for us as a country, for me as a World Bank, and also to some extent for Government of India. Why? $1 of public sector is mobilizing only $1 of private sector. Why it is bad? Because Government of India is reaching fiscal deficit. There's a limit to what Government of India can invest in India. There's a limit to what World Bank can lend to India. Every year we lend $4 billion in India, out of which $1 billion goes to energy. But more than that, we cannot increase the limit. The only person who can increase the limit is Chintan Shah over here. He can increase investment in India. But can we convince him, can we come up with more bankable structures so that international banks, international private sector players can come and keep on investing? So my presentation will focus only on this one thing. How do we increase leveraging, which is 1:1 over here, to increase it to 10 times over here? The role of guarantees, what ISA is trying to do on GSF over here, is required in India if we have to meet the ambitious goal which has been set up by MNRE over here. You also again mentioned a particular case study, so I'm going to show one particular case study. We have $1 billion program with SBI. I'm going to showcase how we were able to mobilize international investment by doing refinancing. I'll go a little bit fast. In 2016, when solar rooftop was still not bankable in India, although we were doing large-scale solar left, right, and center, Bhadla Solar Park and Karnataka, Chanaka Solar Park, solar rooftop was still struggling. Only 500 megawatts were installed against a target of 40 gigawatts in 2016. The Government of India, MNRE, asked us to partner with SBI, and we started a technical assistance program where we strengthened the regulatory and policy network at the state level. We went to 23 states and drafted solar rooftop and net metering policy over here. Then we offered a solar rooftop loan as concessional as at 8%. At that time in 2016, NBFCs were giving solar rooftop loan at 14%, which was making the case unviable. So twin strategy: first, de-risk the market by policy regulatory and provide concessional financing 8% even for decentralized solar rooftop at the ground level. The result was now we have 600 megawatts asset only by SBI, and today every commercial bank has a line of credit for solar rooftop matching the home loan if you go and install over here. Now we are talking to MSME Ministry to further enhance and provide a guarantee framework for installing solar rooftop. Stage number 3 is very important. This is where the leveraging and financing come over here. What we did is the brownfield assets under the SBI, which were operating for 6 years, we took them to global markets. We said now the World Bank role is over. Can we refinance these assets by bringing international debt from Standard Chartered and Citibank, and we were successful. We got record low prices from the global capital markets, which are now refinancing $200 million of assets in SBI. So World Bank was replaced by a mega guarantee. We went out. We will now take this $200 million to another innovative technologies like offshore wind or green hydrogen. But even Government of India got rid of the sovereign guarantee fees. What I'm trying to say is, several SOEs in India, Power Grid, NHI, are sitting on these brownfield assets which could be refinanced in the global markets. Yes, they are doing it, but what I feel is it can be done much faster at a much quicker rate. And again, GSF is one product. Dr. Mathur is working on that, which is also moving in that direction. How do we refinance some of these assets? Very quickly, stage one, de-risking. How do we leverage private sector by using guarantees? And finally, refinancing some of the assets on the ground so that we can achieve this $100 billion financing gap in India by doing this innovative financing method. Thank you.
Thank you, and you also alluded to a lot of points which I was going to ask you anyway in the next round of question and answer. But thank you so much for setting that. And refinancing is another topic I'll come back to in my next round of questions. And specifically, if there's a role for credit enhancement, because a lot of these small projects don't have the required credit for going to the markets. But let me now turn to Mr. Chintan Shah for his opening remarks.
Thank you. Amit, you have very high hopes for me. Say a bit about our Renne Power. Renne Power is the largest, second largest IPP in India. We have about private sector. About 10 gigawatt of operating assets, of which about 4.5 gigawatt is wind, the rest is solar. And we have a 10 gigawatt pipeline which is under construction. So that's what we are today. It's a professionally managed company, and it's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Having said so, since we are working on the entire spectrum of renewables, which is wind, solar, hybrid, transmission, hydro, obviously the easiest to execute happens to be solar because of its unique feature. And obviously wind is a challenge, but the fact of the matter remains that you can't push solar without wind today, because you require some sort of a dispatchability in your source of electricity. So wind is a must. The hybrid policy talks about 25% contribution coming from wind. That means whatever 100 megawatts we are adding from solar, 25 megawatt from wind needs to be there. Otherwise, the offtake will be a challenge when you want to sell to a discount. So that's the fact of the matter. However, there are, talking about today, we're talking about 18-20 gigawatt of solar every year. If you have to increase this bar to 40-50 gigawatt, obviously there's going to be challenges in solar also. So one of the challenge would be essentially, can we debottle the land and the transmission? That's a key part. The good part is CTU has allowed it. That means if I have a piece of land. Now the question is that there are substations which are planned, which are available, and you identify land near to that. That creates a problem because everybody goes there. And it creates a local issues in terms of increase of pricing or the ROW problems, and at the end of the day, accumulates to tariff, higher tariff. So suppose if you have a piece of land, and can the transmission come to your doorstep? Makes things much easier. The CTU allows that to do so. Now, recently, JETCO also announced this, and we can also do it. You have your piece of land, you come to us, we'll build a bespoke transmission line to your doorstep. Now, that would change the entire game. Then you're not looking at constraints of land near the transmission. Rather, now we're bringing transmission to your doorstep. That will essentially open up the execution challenge that I face today, practically zero. That's something that is already happening, so I did not say about it. The only thing is only JETCO from Gujarat has come forward with this particular proposal at a state level. I'm sure that other states will also follow JETCO, because in future when the ISTS levels are going off, there will be a preference for the projects to be come up at a state transmission level, not at central transmission level. The landed cost of the ISTS charge will be about 1 rupees 50 paisa also to a state level. So obviously there's a huge arbitrage. Rather go to the STU level itself instead of the CTU.
But as you mentioned about this standing committee report, since it's now public, I was primarily the author of that report. It was in my earlier job. And the numbers that we had computed was 23 lakh crores of debt capital needed till 2030. And if you add hydrogen to it, another 8 lakh crores. So you're talking about 32 lakh crores of total debt capital needed. We did a fair amount of deep dive analysis on this. Now, as equity also gets recycled, debt also gets recycled. So you have three stages in debt. One is the underwriting part, the second is the term lending part, the third is the bond market. So what would happen is there will be underwriting agents will keep on underwriting the project for execution and essentially pass it on to our term lenders like REC, IRERA and various other lenders. And finally when the project is stabilized and getting a good rating, it will move out from the term rating to a bond market. That's the case today also. That means you have, and again when the project goes to the bond market, the money comes back to the term lender. So that recycling happens. So what we did was how much of term lending is actually possible in India at any point of time. So the number that we computed was 12 lakh crores, which is majorly coming from REC, PFC, NIDA, and maybe State Bank of India and people like that. But that seems to be sort of a limit. Beyond that, you can't go for a term lending because banks also got other things to fund. That means the bond market has to essentially take a bond with roughly like almost an equivalent amount or a larger amount. That means we need to essentially deepen the bond market of India. That's something key, very important. And this is what has happened across the world. So India needs to just follow this street. The problem with the bond market today is the bond market mimics a corporate bond market. That means you have a sweet spot of 3 to 6 years when the private sector goes to raise bonds. If you raise a 10-year bond, you may not get subscription at all. Unlike for an institution like PFC and already they can go for a 10-year or 15-year bond market. But for a project-based bond market, maximum you can see is India is 5 years. We need to create essentially a platform, as Dr. Mathur was pointing out, to create a bond market which is asset-backed, not a corporate bond market. And essentially you have assets which are running for 20 years with good PPA, stabilized asset, the good rating. Why can't it attract a subscription of 10-year or 15-year time? And who will do it? Obviously the insurance funds and the pension funds. If they are looking long investments, steady returns coming out of it. This setup needs to be created in India, which is not yet there. That is something we have to do it. We have no other option to do it. Today, obviously there is not that issue. At the moment you are hitting this 8 lakh, 9 lakh crores of term lending, you start facing this problem. So we need to start right away. For example, you have the sovereign green bonds created by the government of India. We need to now move this sovereign green bonds from the government of India's balance sheet to project balance sheets. That is what is needed. And essentially, grenium or no grenium, we require this market just not for renewables, even for the entire infrastructure space. To some extent, we have been lucky in India, but InvIT is not an answer to the debt market, and these are tradable bond markets. Another thing which I would like to also point out over here is at this juncture, I think government of India requires reserve a huge upper. The setup they have done of the project structure itself, a bit constructed now where you have an REI which is a AAA rated, taken to PPA, and there are good projects coming up, 250 megawatt, 300 megawatt, 400 megawatt, one single project size, and with a good pedigree developer, with good experience, is a non-issue as far as debt is concerned. The bankers in principle are okay with it. I would not name a banker, but a particular banker, which is a nationalized banker, is offering money if you are a AAA rated REI, which all REIs are, and you are at least A or AA rated as a borrower, and you have the land in place, the transmission connectivity in place, they are offering money at 8.5% rate of interest. What it shows, you are as less risky as a housing loan. Now, what more you expect? That means bankers are accepting you on at par with housing. Housing loan is one particular instrument which is no risk instrument for any lender. So now renewables, at least solar, is back to that level. The question now remains is what will happen when you go to a state level? ISPS, CTU-based projects are fine because REIs have a role to play. The moment you go to a particular state discom PPA, will you get the same results from the banker? Is a litmus. And this is bound to happen because as ISPS river gets removed, you have more and more state discom projects coming up. Now that's where Amit talked about, and I think you also talked about the PSM mechanism. Or maybe if not a PSM, can REI itself act as an intermediary at a state level? Because the bankers are accepting REIs. All REIs are accepted by the banker. So even if a SECI is doing a project in an X particular state, which is intrastate, till the counterpart is SECI, banker is okay. Because SECI itself shows the PSM as a, because of its balance sheet or to that country entities as JPA. That is something that needs to be looked into. The third would be, can there be a deemed NOC? If in case the DISCOM defaults, you can straightaway go to the exchange. That means we have an option to select it, let us come to the exchange itself. Now that also comes to me that it's also right time to also create a CFD market, contract for difference marketing. And to say that today the major challenge that happens today is that 54 gigawatt of bids happened last year. EPS converted is only 8 gigawatt. It takes time for an REA to convert an LOA to PPA. But when the PPA gets converted, the project will not start actually the execution. But in case there was CFD market, I'll not even wait for the PPA. I'll straight away go and executing the project, dump it on the exchange or through a CFD mechanism and wait for the right PPAs to come in to bid for it. So that means again you need to debottle the execution and the PPA. Because one thing is for sure 500 gigawatt is needed. The only thing is today the exchange again, the electricity exchange today has got a depth of like 7 gigawatt or 8 gigawatt on a daily basis, which is too thin. Unless this depth increases to 25 to 30 gigawatt, exchange cannot be an alternative to a PPA. That's the reality. So that means even the government of India has to now push on the CFD market. And finally, before I conclude, 2-3 things are needed. At this juncture, debt is a non-issue, as simple as that, because there's adequate debt capital available in India. International debt is actually expensive. Amit would agree with me, the software rate is 5.4%. At least you at least 150 bips to it, 700 bips, plus hedging cost of the dollar, which is about 9.5%, plus software risk also, you are getting. But 10% landed cost. While I can borrow at 9% and 8%, 8.5% the Indian domestic market. That's the reason nobody is today drawing international debt capital. Because it doesn't make sense. Maybe tomorrow software dips to 3% or 2%, people will start borrowing from the international market. But debt is a non-issue. The issue today happens to be actually the equity. Equity in per se is available, but at what cost? Today if I raise equity, Mukundan ji will agree with me, the cost of landed equity is nothing less than 14 to 16%. Bare minimum, because of US Fed rate. That means most of the people in India are doing capital recycling on the equity side also. That's not the debt side. That's the reality. So what is needed from the lending perspective is, if we can create a structured finance market, which is essentially nothing but a quasi-equity instrument by the lenders, it could help to push and boost the renewables in India. And the second would be create working capital limits for the developers of the EPC contractors. Because somebody has to execute this project. I'm an IPP, I'll be doing a contract to somebody who will execute it for me. Now they don't get working capital. Even if they get working capital, it's pretty expensive. So that is something that we need to look into it, because more and more gigawatts added, more and more EPC contracts are getting awarded. So it requires working capital limit for them. Term lending seems to be a non-issue today. Bottleneck is working capital as well as essentially structured finance. These two things.
Thank you, Mr. Shah. A lot of interesting points you have mentioned, and many of these will come back later. But let me just turn to Mr. Mukundan for his opening remarks, please.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everybody. A lot of points have been told by the earlier speakers. Just to give you a perspective of what is NIF and what we do. We are an institution created by the Government of India somewhere around 2016-17. Are you able to hear me now? Yes. Okay, sorry for that. So we are, just to give you a perspective, what is NIF? We are an institution which was created somewhere around 2016-17, where the government decided that there is a need for equity capital to be raised for infrastructure sector, and therefore created this institution called National Investment in Infrastructure Funds. The government gave a seed capital of 20,000 crores for this institution, and that was supposed to contribute about 49% of the total cost of the fund, and we were mandated to raise the balance 51% from international investors. Today we manage about $5 billion, it's about 40,000 crores. which has been raised. All this is equity capital which has been raised from international investors without any government guarantee about guaranteed repayment of principal or interest or anything. So based on the strength, this is equity money which has been raised from international, very reputed international investors, Canadian pension funds, some of the sovereign wealth funds from the Middle East, Southeast Asia, Singaporean sovereign wealth funds are invested in us. That should we are doing well. We as far as renewables is concerned, I think on the equity side, on the entire green transition itself, we have invested today close to about 9,000 to 10,000 crores out of the total portfolio. 25% of the total portfolio itself is in the green transition. Specifically on renewables, we own and operate a platform called Ayana Energy, Ayana Renewables, which has a pipeline of about 5 gigawatts, about 4.5 to 2 gigawatts of operational capacity. Some of the things which were discussed in the past, in the earlier, we were one of the pioneers in bidding and winning the 24/7 RTC power for Indian Railways. The RELCL tender which you mentioned, we have it for a 300 megawatt RTC power. We have a combination of solar, wind, and also energy storage. A combination of these products, and we are giving very competitive tariffs to the Indian Railways. Based on that experience, we also went ahead and we have signed up with a private developer, a large aluminium company in India, where we have contracted to supply 100 megawatts for the next 25 years on slightly higher tariffs because the counterparty risk is slightly higher there. But again, we have a combination of solar, wind, and storage, energy storage. So we have done these kind of innovative projects from Ayana platform itself. And as far as distributed solar, we have also got a platform called Radiant Renewables, which has about 600 megawatts of distributed solar, which has counterparty with various CNI customers. I concur with many of the views that debt as of today has not been a big problem for many of the projects. In fact, the domestic debt is available at very cheap rates, 8.25. We have been able to raise for our platforms at 8 and 8.25 and all. Apart from that, the other thing which I mentioned was we also run an NBFC. We own and operate an NBFC, which has a book of about $4 billion, about 45,000 crores of loan book it has. 54% of that book is full of renewables, the solar, and majority, 80-90% of that is solar projects. And that portfolio is also doing well. So we have a large exposure to this sector itself. Debt availability has not been a problem for many of the projects, and we believe that this will continue to be so for at least the next couple of years. Equity as well, based on our own fundraising experience, has not been a big problem for us. Of course, the cost is at 14 to 16%, and it is not going to come down in the near future, at least foreseeable future, because US interest rates are at whatever they are, and therefore the expectation of returns are at about 14 to 16%. Just to give you a perspective, when we are doing some couple of fundraisers now, new fundraisers which we are doing, and the feedback which we receive is that in the European market and in the US, the equity returns are in the range of about 12% dollar, 10 to 12%. Therefore, if you do a markup for the country risk, currency risk, and all that, the expectation is more closer towards the 16% rather than at the 14% right now. But a lot of money is available at the right pricing, and let's see how the interest rates go down in the US, and hopefully it goes down in the next couple of quarters, and we will be able to reduce the cost of funding. Coming to the question which was raised about the structured credit and the need for structured financing instruments, that's something which has been largely, it has been happening sporadically in India, but largely absent. So what we have done at NIF is that we are setting up a $2 billion credit fund, is what we are calling, which will essentially do structured credit, mezzanine financing, and holdco financing and structured credit. And we already raised about $1 billion from Government of India has contributed about $500 million. We have one international investor who has contributed about $500 million. We have already raised about $1 billion, and we should be closing the first close of it by December at about $1.2, $1.3 billion. So we are already in that, and that is exclusively focused on the green transition, not necessarily on the renewables, but on the entire value chain of the green transition itself. So these are some of the initiatives which we have done. happy to discuss anything further, any specific questions which you have.
Thank you so much. That completes the first round of introductory remarks. I mean, 2-3 common themes emerged. One, of course, is the whole issue of supporting infrastructure, land, transmission lines, and that sort of affecting the cost of capital, completion rates and all of that. So that's one clear issue that came up from many of your remarks. The second is the whole idea of equity versus debt, and what I'm hearing clearly is that debt is not an issue. I do want to point out one study that was recently concluded that found that out of the 110 solar projects that were concluded from the beginning to like 2020 or 2021, they were all below investment grade projects. But the last 3 years have seen projects rated A. So there's still a, the cost of credit management has reduced, but there's still a support that's required to get these projects over the hump, and therefore for them to be able to access the domestic debt capital market. So that's something, and the role of guaranteed instruments there, credit enhancement facilities there, I want to come back to. But the issue of equity that you have raised is something that I'll ask some follow-up questions on. And the last we touched slightly is the whole issue of decentralized renewable energy. I know Mr. Jain has to leave, so just before you leave, sir, if you can offer perspectives on 2 of these areas. One is, of course, distributed renewable energy, the PM Surya Ghar Yojana, which is the flagship program Prime Minister launched. There's a subsidy. Still we hear there are consumer financing issues. If you can just talk a bit about that. You also mentioned there are other plans for DRE, if you can share some of that. And finally, any thoughts around land, transmission, infrastructure, etc.?
Excuse me, Jan also raised the issue of payment guarantee.
Yes,
How
please.
do we manage that? The politicizing the sector has created lots of problems.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I come first to the PM Surya Ghar program, which is primarily the one-point shop for entire rooftop ecosystem in the country. It was a fact that getting a loan for rooftops was almost not there. It was just not there. There were some NBFCs which were offering, but yes, those were at 14%, 15%, that kind of interest rate. And we look at the total numbers that have been sanctioned for loans, it was almost very, very minuscule. So when the PM Surya Ghar program was being conceptualized, let me share that when we were looking at whether first level can we get a standard loan product introduced in the banks, that there should be a rooftop loan as a standard product, because prior to that each bank was having kind of a add-on on a home loan, if at all, but majority of the rooftops will get installed on houses which are already existing. On a new house, it's a very small number. So we said that there has to be a standard product which is a rooftop product which every nationalized bank needs to come up with. Then we said, can it be as attractive as a home loan product? But let me share that the vision from Honorable Prime Minister was that it has to be even much cheaper than the home loan product. And today, all nationalized banks have agreed to offer it repo plus 0.5%, which is today comes to 7%. So that framework is now getting ready. The products have all been launched. Every bank has the products now. We have also been designing that rooftop program. It should be a simple one-click process for applying for a rooftop on the national portal, which is pmsuryaghar.gov.in, and also to ensure that the loan application also is done immediately there. And let me share that these now all banks have a standard product. They also have for up to 3 kilowatt, which is the smaller rooftops up to 3 kilowatt, 7% collateral free. It's a completely collateral-free product. We are now working to ensure that it becomes a digitized product, where from the pmsuryaghar.gov.in itself, you are able to apply for the loan and get an instant sanction on the loan there itself. So that may take another month or so to put in place, because the IT infrastructure, the backends that have to be integrated with all the banks, that work is going on. So this will ensure that the loan market is clearly available for the smaller rooftops and the rooftops. It will be in place. We don't foresee a problem there. The banks have been, they have been given targets, and the target is that yes, 1 crore rooftops that we are targeting, if everybody needs a loan, they all should be able to get it. So the decentralized RE side, we are on track on that. We don't foresee a major issue.
How do you manage the indigenous condition?
The DCR content for the rooftop has to be indigenously manufactured.
Capacity is not available in the country.
There is adequate capacity that is available. Today we have more than 6 gigawatt of cell manufacturing which is in place. We have another 18 gigawatts of cell manufacturing capacity which will go live in next 3 to 4 months. So we don't foresee a challenge in terms of cell plus module manufacturing. Module manufacturing, we are close to almost 48, 49 gigawatt, 50 gigawatt, which is available. So we don't foresee that challenge. In fact, we today also have a DCR portal of the manufacturers, which will get linked to PM Surya Ghar portal, so that moment you install, you put the serial number, that also gets verified whether it's a DCR module or not. So we don't foresee a problem there. There is, in fact, I'm talking this year itself what is coming up. There is subsequent further capacities which will come up next year and year later also. So on this side, we are not having a major challenge. On the land availability sides for utility scale solar, like you were saying, yes, as sir had mentioned in Gujarat, Khavda is already provided a very, very vast tract of land which is there. But post ISTS waiver, yes, we will have to see that land has to come up in all the states, wherever there is consumption, wherever the plants have to be set up. Individual states are taking various leads. Andhra is providing government orders whereby the lands are accordingly being allotted to any of the developers who are applying for and taking the bids. It will be a marketplace which will have to evolve. I also refer to the transmission one which Chetan mentioned on whether the transmission can come to the land. There is always a cost. So if transmission has to come to whatever land is there will be a cost to it. Whereas if you get a land which is nearest to the substation, which has a capacity available, you save on the transmission cost. You may have more higher cost of land there. So we will not be able to hide these costs. These costs will be there, and we have to work to see that the market, wherever the cheapest economy works out. Today, with the ISTS waiver, we are not seeing that amount of investment which has gone into putting that infrastructure, the transmission infrastructure. So once the waiver is not there, then we'll see a clear market economy in place to decide which place, what should be the right economies and the tariff, how it should evolve. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shri Sudhir Jain, for your time, and we would like to call Shri Koil Bandal to please felicitate Shri Sudhir Jain, sir, 2 seconds. This. Have a great applause, please. For you.
we'll just do one more quick round based on some of the points that came up and try and finish before time maybe some of you have to leave. Just a quick follow-up round on, Dr. Mathur, the payment security mechanism guarantee instruments came up quite a bit, and we understand the role of that in leveraging capital. You have the experience of setting up and capitalizing the global solar facility at ISA. If you can share that experience a bit and the relevance of that kind of a dedicated facility for India in the solar context.
The global solar facility originated with the fact that while the solar sector drew in a lot of capital, for example, last year something like $500 billion came into the solar sector globally, but 74% of it went to the OECD countries and China. All of Africa received about 3% of the funds. So then we talked to the various investors, we talked about 100 of them, and they said two things. One is that, listen, we are not sure whether we'll get return on investment. And the second thing that they said was, where are the projects? So they were looking at a project pipeline. Then we spoke to various African countries, and when we did the numbers, we found that the non-repayment rate, the loss rate on loans was 2% on solar loans. Now, agreed that this was off a very small base, but it was 2%. In India and in Europe, the default rate is 8%. We therefore thought that this is therefore a perception issue. Yes, what did happen in Africa was people were late in payment. It's not as if they didn't pay, but they were late in payment. This was the origin of the Global Solar Facility. And the Global Solar Facility is really, it's three funds. One of them is a payment guarantee mechanism, where we are saying if you are providing equity, if you're an international investor providing equity, you can buy a guarantee that you will be repaid if your main counterparty does not pay. This is not for large projects, this is for small projects, and this is for projects in Africa to begin with. That is the first. The second is that if you get repaid, then you pay back this money. So in other words, it becomes an interest-free loan. What we hope this will do is create the confidence in equity investors to invest in projects. The guarantee is being provided to the equity investors, it's not being provided to developers because of the conflict of interest issue. Now, apart from this, one more fund that I think is important to mention is that in many countries, there is a problem that insurance raises the cost. Amit knows this very well. For example, there was a project which was being carried out for solar mini grids, so a small scale decentralized project in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It was being financed by ICF. But ICF said that the DRC is a dangerous country. You need to get MEGA insurance. Now, that raised the cost of electricity that is provided by the solar mini grids. So what the International Solar Alliance has done is that it has provided an insurance guarantee. If you pay, we told MEGA that we will guarantee that Nuru will pay you. If Nuru doesn't pay, we will pay. Now, what this did was it reduced the cost of electricity supplied by 20%. What we feel is that these together would help in creating an environment within which money flows into these countries. Now, whether this will work for India or not, I don't know. Because the kinds of challenges in India are very different. In India, we haven't had, Mukundan was saying just now, there's no problem as far as debt is concerned. There's also little problem as far as equity is concerned. The problem is when you go to scale. See, right now, solar and wind together provide about, 11% of the total electricity in the country, something of that sort. But when you go to 60, 70%, then you are pushing at the debt market. You are pushing at the limits of the equity market, including, that's when various kinds of sweeteners would be required, or let me not call it sweeteners, let me call it confidence boosting measures, would be required for this money to flow in. So India is a slightly different case from the what we have established for the Global Solar Fund.
Thank you. And then on that very topic, let me turn to you, Mr. Mukund, since you raised the issue of equity as well. And you mentioned 14 to 16% kind of the return. What are the options we have? Another thing is institutional, foreign institutional investors that you mentioned. Do you also see the risk of, now that Inflation Reduction Act and Europe is also considering something similar, do you also see the risk of flight of capital to those geographies because of higher rate of returns in addition to Fed paying more? How do you see the equity challenge?
So, coming specifically to the act which you mentioned and the flight of capital, that is something which we have not been seeing in the international market, because the global capital availability is huge and India gets only 1-2% of the total capital itself. So capital availability has not been an issue for us. We wanted to raise this $2 billion fund, of course, and we launched it, and we have already reached about $1 billion, of course with the support of Government of India, which is giving us $500 million. But money, whenever we are talking to investors in Middle East, when we are talking to investors globally, money availability is not an issue for us. It will continue. For the scale at which India wants to adopt, I don't think money availability will be an issue. Having said that, how do we need to address this issue of how do we reduce the cost of capital itself? And that's where probably blended finance products have not come into India, and that has to come up in a big way. A lot of global institutions like World Bank will have to support in having more of blended finance product. The product which we are talking is the $2 billion fund which we are raising is probably the first blended finance product of scale which we are trying to do in India, where the anchor investors, which means the Government of India and the other investor who is committed, take some kind of a lower return. While the projects are at that level only, the projects generate whatever returns, and because it's a very competitive market and therefore the tariffs will be there, and structured products will give you what 12%, 13% kind of returns, or maybe if it is slightly more risky, you may get about 14% return. And that's not sufficient for international investors. These are talking of rupee, whereas in the global markets they're already getting money at 11% dollar. Therefore, the anchor, so we need a lot of blended finance products investments to come from global investors. They'll have to support in this energy transition itself. Without that, a blended finance, it would be very challenging for India to achieve the financing requirements. So point number one. And the point number two is there was a lot of discussion about domestic capital and the bond market. Now, we constantly see these reports where we hear that the EPFO has been struggling to give 8% or 8.25% interest to the subscribers. Largely, and that's a dichotomy in the Indian market. Because they are not earning enough returns, because they are putting 90% of their money or more than 95% of their money into government securities, and the government securities for whatever reason is at 6%, 6.5%. So we told the government, we are let them invest into renewables, Indian infrastructure. We said Indian infrastructure, where the underlying asset is residing in India. Cash flows, if a Canadian pension fund, I welcome them, they should be present in India. But at the same time, if they are making money and they are making 9.5% return, might be 10% return, why shouldn't EPFO not be making that money and be able to give higher returns, or at least be able to give 8.5% return to its subscribers? Provident funds are big investors globally in infrastructure, in domestic infrastructure. If you take any of the Canadian pension fund or any of the US pensions, all the state pension funds, their 80%, 90% of the portfolio will be into domestic infrastructure itself. Whereas our EPFO, for various reasons, the challenge for them is they don't have the capability of appraising these projects, of taking the risk underwriting capabilities is not there. Therefore, intermediation, we said, at least for the initial period of handholding period, for a period of 8 years, 10 years, we could handhold them. Institutions like NI, we have been created with the government, we could handhold them and show the path as to what are the risks in infrastructure and what are the, how these are to be mitigated, so that they also tend to earn, say, probably a higher return. But these are interventions which probably are required at the government level itself, higher to push for these kind of benefits.
Yes, Mr. Bhatt, please.
Yeah, few of the to Mr. Mukundan's and Children's queries. REC, the single project exposure limit is 20,015 crores for a single project. The debt limit can go up to 20,015 crores. And for group of number of projects, under one promoter, the limit is 33,358 crores. So enough cushion is available for lending in big ticket projects also. The project is 10,000 crore. We can go for sole lending for 75%. State sector cases, we go even up to 80%. We look at the external credit rating of the promoter, the project, the security aspects, and the other the equity aspect, the land availability, everything. The credit worthiness is worked out, and we are able to integrated rating, and we have got IR1 to IR5. So our turnover time is also the optimal, I should say, the least number of days among the LPs, I should say. Concerning the LOU and the LOC, we have that product also. We are facilitating for giving as a VG this LOC and the LOU that we are offering, and there is an MNRE guide. MNRE has also issued a directive for SECI and NTPC based projects. Both PFC and REC are to give LOU, and that apart for even all private players, we are offering this LOU, LOC, and the limit is going up to 2,000 crores per project. Coming to further, the rate of interest is 8.5 plus the very AAA rating or AA plus and all is around 8.5, goes even lesser also. That we negotiate and achieve the financial closure. We are determined to bring down the cost of funds further down. Through ADB, we are in talks with Green Climate Fund, South Korea, India. There we had discussions, some that blended funds is in the offing. That will go for project specific RE projects. And similarly with KFW also, we have entered into MOU, and that is in the evolving process. We are lining up those funds for the RE projects. And the working capital limits, of course, yes, we are accommodating, like IDC, the contingencies, the like other the tax funds, the tax and other requirements. The soft cost, in the initial period that used to be somewhere around the 5%, it's going up to even 10%. That also we are talking. The project is of some 15,000 crores mega solar project. There the soft cost is going somewhere around 3,000 crores. That also we are accommodating. The IDC component goes up to even 3 years gestation, complete gestation period. So I think the equity, the commitment, upfront equity before our fund release, before the start, that is where we are insisting, and the proportionately, because we wanted to see the seriousness of the promoter. So we structure our fund releases based on the progress and also the equity that would be infused with the promoter. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I know some people have to leave. If there are any quick questions from the audience, we'll take.
I'll just add one thing.
Sure.
Just to add on the bond market, because this is something very interesting. Just for the audience, the total AUM of LIC, GIC, and EPFO and NPS put together today is 85 lakh crores. And almost double of that is from the private sector, which is the insurance and all. So we are talking about something like a 4 lakh crore, 3.5 lakh crores of money already available. And none of them are in the bond market on the renewable side. Zero. Literally zero. The problem is the regulation of PFRDA and IRDA. That mandate not more than 10% of exposure of the net worth of the investing company and 20% for the insurance. So unless these two regulations are also tweaked, even if they want to do it, they can't do. That is something the government needs to look into it, to amend the PFRDA regulation as well as IRDA regulation, allowing them to invest into this debt instrument. That's a primary thing. Second thing is, maybe if we have this concept of RPO and all these things, why can't we also mandate to set aside 2% of the AUM towards debt for these projects? Now the whole idea is, they call it walk the talk. We've been talking about global pension funds to come to India for debt. At least let us try to push at least LIC, GIC, EPFO towards it. If they do it, I'm 100% sure private sector will also come in. Global pension will also come. There's a massive debt capital available on this. So if we are doing a long-term basis, this is the market, this is the investing companies that needs to be somehow got into this bond market. Thanks.
Yes, please.
It is to Dr. Mathur. You said that solar plus wind plus storage comes to 1.5. I want to know whether does it include any element of VGF, and does it also have transmission waiver and any other government relaxation?
Yeah, so this is with the ISTS waiver. This is the price at which the electricity is provided at the bus bar. So right now there is the ISTS, so it is the same price at the bus bar and at the discom which is buying it. There is no other subsidy. The as Mukundan will certify, NIF is what? You said the majority shareholder in INF. So the monies that are made available are completely commercial and at commercial rates.
Any other questions from the audience? All right, well, thank you so much to all the panelists once again for all your perspectives and spending time with us today.
So I think we need all the people here. So just a small felicitation of the event. I will request our President, Shri Prafulla Pathak, to please felicitate Dr. Ajay Mathur, Director General of ISA. Thank you so much. May I request Dr. Amit Kumar Singh to please come and felicitate Dr. Amit Jain, Senior Energy Specialist, World Bank. Can you request Dr. Amit Kumar, please don't be here, to please also felicitate Sri Chindan Shah. Dr. Ashvini Kumar, sir, can you please felicitate Sri Bosch from REC Limited? Dr. Kumar, I would like you to please felicitate Sri Mukundan.
Thank you very much.
May I again request Dr. Amit Kumar to please felicitate Sri Koyamandal, our moderator. A big applause to him for wonderfully moderating this session. We have our past president here. I would like to request our president, Prafulla Pathak sir, to please felicitate Ajay Kumar Srivastava, our past president. Sri V.S. Verma sir is always very supportive and industry legend who have promoted solar in a very long way. A lot of energetic. We are all here. The kind of energy what he brings is in a very different level. I will request Pathak sir to please felicitate him.
And I am proud of Dr. Mathur.
As I was telling him, I have followed him, whether it was in college, where we studied engineering, or it was in the Bureau of Energy Efficiency. So he's a role model.
Thank thank you for all making us all proud. Yeah, we need to take a group photo, please. Pathak sir, Ashvini Kumar sir, please come. Ajay sir. Yeah, please come. Or one can go that side also, no problem. Little bit that side, so. Thank you very much, sir, for all your time. Now it is the closing time. May I request our Secretary General of Solar Energy Society of India, Ashvini Kumar Sharma, sir, to please come and give vote of thanks. May I request everyone please take a seat so that we can finish this vote of thanks.
Please take your seats, gentlemen. Please take your seat, thank you. Excuse me, please. Please take your seats. A very good morning to all of this august gathering present here in this auditorium. I have been assigned to say thanks, though it is very simple to say thanks, but I think that it is a very Herculean task, because if I miss giving thanks to anybody, he may get annoyed with me. I start with the Solar Energy Society of India. Solar Energy Society of India was established in the year 1978. Nearly it is 46 years, and I am proud to say that SESI is doing a commendable job in carrying on the activities and promotion of the Solar Energy Society, solar energy all over the India. I mention my special thanks to Dr. Prafulla Pathak, who is the present president of the society, and Mr. Ajay Mathur, the immediate past president of the society. But before I say thanks to this event or the event partners, I would like to say thanks, and not only we, I think all the living creatures should say thanks to God's Son, as mentioned by Dr. Suniji, and I say the Lord Sun and the Star Sun, because Sun is the boss of all the 9 planets. Now one thing is there, sun, we have been from our childhood, we have been listening that sun rises in the east. Right from the childhood, we were told the sun rises in the east. But when we come to the school and college, then we were told that the sun is stationary and earth is moving. This is what we were told in the school. And in the childhood, we were told that the sun is rising in the east. And these both statements are contradictory to each other, but we are living with both these statements. And we are happy with both these contradictory statements. So the thing is, Solar Energy Society is being this Solar Energy Day is being celebrated all over India. This is 21st June. Why it is being celebrated today? 21st June is the brightest and the longest day of the year. So that is how it is being celebrated as Solar Energy Day all over the world. Now I express my thanks to Dr. Ajay Mathur, the eminent speakers who have been there, Dr. David Renne, Sri Sudeep Jain, Mr. Vivek Devangan, Sri Komal Koyal Mandal, Sri K. Mukundan, Mr. Chintan Shah, Dr. Amit Jain, Dr. Ashvini Kumar, and Shri Prafulla Pathak, of course. Now, on behalf of Solar Energy Society of India, I express my special thanks
to the co-sponsors of this event, the International Solar Alliance, ISES, NSFEI, Shakti Sustainable Energy Foundation, particularly Mr. Amit Parihar. I hope he is here. Okay, very good. So I say my special thanks to you. And again, my special thanks to machine maker, Mr. Hari Shankar, who has organized this event very wonderfully, very beautifully. So once again, I perform my duties of saying thanks. And all the deliberations here in this hall had been done in the English language, but I end up my Thanksgiving ceremony while saying Dhanyavad. And in Marathi, I say Kritanyata Jnapan. धन्यवाद, आप सबको धन्यवाद.
Thank you very much, Arun Kumar Sharma sir. It was a very energetic speech. What you brought.